Welcome to the Modern Mindset Podcast. I'm your host, Josh Giordani. Special guest today, Dre Evans, multifamily investor, has a book, Prove Them Wrong, and that's, how do you say that?
That's my property.
That's my property. Excited to get you in here, man. I know we connected via social media, which is a powerful thing.
Powerful thing.
Yeah, ready to get into it.
Let's do it.
Cool. So born and raised in Chicago, single mother. Let's talk a little bit about your childhood and your upbringing, just because we can get into the business and success stuff, but I think a lot of it comes from where you stem from, where you grow up, how you grew up, how you get yourself out of situations that may have affected you when you were younger. So let's get into that a little bit.
Yeah, man, imagine a kid, young kid, you're growing up and you're trying to find your way in life. I think that a lot of kids go through that. You have all the passions and talents that are in you, and you're trying to figure out your way in the world. And I think for me, my mom, like you said, I'm a triplet. She was a hardworking single mom, and she worked for FedEx. She did global account sales, and she was driving to work. And you get that moment where you're about maybe 5 or 10 minutes down the street, and you're like, oh, snap, I forgot something. She pumps the brakes, turns around, walks in the door. It's all casual. My biological father's there, and he's on the couch, and he's, like, shooting up. Oh, fuck. And she sees that, and she was like, I'm done. And she has seen a couple signs before, and at that time, checks bounced, a couple other things, like mysterious woman would call the house sometimes, and you would think that, oh, is he cheating? But it really came to be where he was, like, using with them. And once that happened, my mom left. That was Detroit, and we actually were born in Detroit. And then we moved to Chicago, where my mom is originally from my grandparents, and from there, I was 3 years old.
Wow. And
then we moved to Inglewood, which is known for one of the most impoverished and violent-ridden submarket communities within the south side of Chicago. That's where people that listen to hip-hop, Chief Keef, Lil Durk, Vaughn, all those type of guys hail from. And when I was 12, I just decided that I wanted to join a gang on the south side of Chicago. I think for me, my brothers were more video game heads. So then after an hour, I was done playing.
Right.
And I would just get up and, like, explore, you know, and you meet these guys. I think that everyone has someone they look up to, whether it be a brother or an uncle or someone. And I think for me, I saw this one guy in particular. His name was Smoke. He was the gang leader, and he was just, like, the way he talked, the way he carried himself. He drove a nice car. Like, you see all those things that you kind of look to, at least for me, that I thought was cool. And in my environment, that's what was cool. It was the people that you had the nice-looking girl, you had the cars, you had the bling, and that was my environment. And if you had that, it was like you reached the top. Everybody respected you. Like, you could handle yourself. No one messed with you. No one was trying to come after you. That, to me, was life. And when I saw that in an individual, I pursued that. And from there, I was in the gang for a few years doing my thing, and then my stepdad came in my life, and we butted heads. He's very abusive physically and emotionally to me and my mom and my brothers, and that just came from his upbringing, just being a foster kid and the traumas that he went through in his life and the regrets that he went through in his life. And from there, he randomly came home one day and was like, you guys should look at this school called West Point. He found out about it because he was in the Army. He was enlisted. And so for my listeners out there, they're the service academies, the West Point, the Naval Academy, the Air Force Academy. They're the elite Ivy League institutions that presidents, vice presidents, congressmen, senators, they send their sons and daughters there to get a A-plus education and learn to be a leader. And we were like, no. We looked it up. We saw Army stuff, people in uniform. We were thinking the war in the Middle East. And he just kept bringing it home every day, just about. And at some point, we finally said, you know what, bro? Fine, we'll drive out to the hours. We'll drive an hour out to the suburbs of Chicago. We'll check this thing out, this information seminar they're having with West Point. And I remember we drove out there. I walked in. I saw this bald guy. He had this suit on with all these medals, and that was the Army's, like, dress blue uniform. Found out his name was Colonel Banks. He had a master's degree and 5 PhDs. And that was my first time ever meeting a male in my life that had any degree.
Right.
Certainly a post-degree educational background, as you put it. And they pretty much debunked all the myths that we had about the military, basically saying that everything that's in the civilian world is in the military world. There's doctors, there's lawyers, there's engineers, there's people that do legal, all that stuff. And from there, we walked away, and we were like, wow, like, this is enlightening. This is not what we thought it was.
Sure.
He tells us about a summer seminar thing that was at West Point for a week. First time out of Chicago, truly, and I felt safe. Like, I was there. They cared about my leadership development. They really poured into me, and I walked away from that experience, and I was like, man, like, I think this might be an opportunity of a lifetime for me to get out of Chicago and get away from change my life.
Yeah.
And the moment I came back, there was a drive-by shooting. Me and my buddy are on the corner. He's my best friend. Called him Boogie. He's in the book. And we saw the car drive past once. We see it drive by twice. And at that point, I already knew what was up.
Right.
Like, he's going to speed down the block. And sure enough, that third trip, he comes around. The window drops slowly. The hooded figure comes out. Pop, 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 pop. And we're just running. We're ducking and weaving in the parking lot. I'm calling his name, and the car speeds off. I'm like, Boogie, where you at, Boogie? It's silent. I don't hear anything. I'm looking under the cars. I don't see any feet. I don't see anything. I'm like, oh, man, did he get shot? My heart sinks. I go a little bit further, and I see these feet leaning against the car.
Fuck.
And I'm like, fuck. And then I peer around, and Boogie's alive. He's leaning against the car. He's, like, crying. And I'm like, and just the night before, his mom had approached him about getting out the gang life. And I think that was a wake-up call for him, and it was a wake-up call for me. And so right after that, I confronted the gang. I'm like, I'm out. Like, I don't care what y'all got to do. If you got to beat me out, if I got to do some things to get in, because you got to do some things to get in.
I was going to ask you
and
that.
I was like, I do what I got to do, but it's a risk not to take a risk. And I say that again because you'll hear me say it a lot, even in business and in real estate. Absolutely. It's a risk not to take a risk. And if you keep doing the same thing, you get the same result. So I'm like, you know what? I'd rather die trying to get out of this because I'm pretty much going to be either dead or in prison if I keep doing what I'm doing. Confronted him. I did what I had to do. I got out. And from there, I went to the Naval Academy, barely graduated the first year because I didn't know how to study, had no type of school skills or student skills, anything like that. I pretty much failed everything. The only thing I got an A in was English because in writing, because that was the only thing I always had a natural knack for. And figured out how to study, entered a major in engineering because you declare your major that second year, graduated at the top of my class at the Naval Academy, and next thing I know, I'm a naval officer. Come out to San Diego, did my time. I'm sitting across someone, a couple just like this, over coffee at Starbucks, venting to him about before the Wall Street Journal bestselling book Prove Them Wrong came out with the publisher. I didn't have any type of way to get financial freedom from my mom on the South Side. And he's like, you should look into multifamily. And I'm like, what's that? And he, for the next 2 hours, he tries to explain it to me. I wish he would have just said it's another word for apartment building. Maybe I would have grasped it better, but maybe I wouldn't have, because for me, I never could fathom, once again, is you cannot dream what you cannot see. I never could fathom anybody ever doing something like that. Nobody did that stuff in Chicago.
Like pouring into you?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
And nobody bought any investment property. You know what I mean? Nobody did that.
Right.
Nobody in my family. I never even met someone that did that. So I was like, it's an apartment building? I'm like, that you got to be like rich for that. And he's trying to explain it to me, just going over my head. But I remember walking away from that, and I'm like, I think this is a sign from God. Like, if he's saying this to me, like, there's got to be a reason that this happened the way it did. And he's telling me this. He's literally spending 2 hours to educate me. So I was like, you know what, Dre, you gotta look into this.
Sure.
So I looked into it. I'm like, you know what, I'm doing this. If there's a way and I don't have to do it off the military's dime, I'm like, I got to do it. And so for the next 4 months, I read every single thing I could on real estate, on multifamily. I listened to podcasts. I did YouTube, and then I moved forward. Put an offer on a 5-unit, put an offer on a 4-unit. The offer, I was second position on the 5-unit one, but the 4-unit in PB, $2 million property, all 2-bedroom, 2-bath, 2 parking space for each unit, 2 storage sets in the back, huge lot in the front of the property. And I moved forward with that, and that was my first deal.
That's crazy. How old were you when you first, how old were you when you, because I want to kind of go back a little bit. like in Chicago when you first joined the gang to when you got out?
I was 12 when I joined, and I got out my junior year in high school.
Okay, so that's like 16, 17-ish?
Just about, yeah.
And then right after that, you went straight to the Naval Academy?
Went straight to the Naval Academy.
So 17, 18. And then when did you meet the guy who taught you?
Keegan, that was after I graduated. I came out here. You owe a 5-year commitment. So I came out here, and that was about 2021.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, because I've been in real estate for 3 years.
Okay, cool. How old are you now?
31.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool. You're younger than me. That's awesome, dude. Yeah, I feel like whenever you meet people like that, I'm kind of getting goosebumps because I feel like that's how everyone really gets to start. Yeah. When they meet mentors or different people who they look up to, that kind of graduate them into things that they're trying to learn. I know that I had several throughout my lifetime of when I was growing up, and it's powerful. It's definitely powerful. Yeah. Did it's interesting because you're talking a lot about the gang stuff and all of that, and I think from people who weren't raised around that, it's glorified in music, and you watch podcast episodes or things like that, and people glorify the gang life. Did you feel like when you joined that it was something that you had to do or that you wanted to do?
It was. Now, there are people in Chicago that are born into that, and also, too, Chicago is a very segregated city. Every 2.5 blocks is a major street, so it happens where you can be basically indoctrinated into a gang just because of where you live at.
Right.
And if you're crossing to another school or you're crossing into another area just 2 blocks away, you can get jumped or killed for that reason.
Right.
Now, and then also there are people that have family ties to it. So there is that component where you can be indoctrinated or born into it. But in general, for me, it was a safety thing because when I was in the gang, like, I could handle myself. No one messed with my brothers. No one messed with me. There was a safety component to it, but at the same time, there was that coming of age, wanting to feel like prove myself and wanting to
be a part of something.
something.
Right.
And I think that's what I really get into what proved them wrong. The whole premise of it is that gangs is just another word for a group or tribe.
Right.
And you're right, gangs do get a bad rep. Street gangs at least get a bad rep. But if you go in other countries, some street gangs have a positive rep. So really what it is gangs in the U.S. have a negative connotation. But when you really think about it, the military, sports teams, academic societies, sororities, fraternities, they're all just different forms of gangs. Republicans, Democrats, it's a gang. and essentially the argument is that I believe that we should join as many gangs as possible, because what happens when you join a gang? There's positive experiences you're going to have, and there's negative experiences. And they're all going to shape who you are and who you want to be.
Right.
They'll help you answer that question, who am I? Which I think today, especially with social media and the rise of anxiety and depression and suicide, a lot of people are struggling to find out who they really are. But if you join as many gangs / groups / tribes / organizations as possible, you meet all these new family members, all these new friends, even your negative experiences you learn from, because you can find a leader that you don't like and that they do things that you don't like, but you could say, I'm not going to be that way when I am in a leadership capacity, or these are things that I'm going to do different. But then you're also going to find good people that help shape your mindset.
Of course.
And you're going to have experiences that come with that. That's going to help shape you. So if there is nuggets while we're on this topic that listeners can get from us, say yes to everything.
Right.
Join as many things as you can, and that will give you will very quickly learn not only what you're passionate about, but what your potential calling could be, the impact that you could have on other people's lives. I think that's where you're going to really learn. I think you shouldn't be closed-minded on, some people have the idea what they think is best for them.
Right.
And they're like, I would never be good at that, or I wouldn't like that, or I wouldn't know. But like, how do you know?
How do you know until you don't try something?
Exactly.
Yeah, I think the biggest, people not ask me, but you hear people on social media and like, oh, I have $20,000. What do I do with it? And they don't have a career or a place to go or anything like that. It's like, you just need to join a bunch of different communities. Like, who knows what you like or what you don't like? Like, obviously, you and I are in the real estate space, 2 different things. You do multifamily. I do residential flipping. But who knows if you'll like multifamily versus residential if you don't go and join a community or understand and learn different things about each of those and figure it out. I agree with you 100%. Yeah. that's why, I mean, I love the community of like what we're in, real estate or mindset. It doesn't even have to be actually in real estate. Like there's people who you can get around who are maybe not in the real estate space specifically, but can impact your life in a different way. Yeah. That's why I love doing these podcasts so much, is because you meet different people and entrepreneurs, and you're like, man, I interviewed a guy who I still remember this podcast because it had such an impact, because we got into things about family and why we were both scared to have kids because of our upbringing and not having, you know, a dad around and things like that. And afterwards I left that thing and I was like, wait, like this dude just changed my life and I didn't know. I just had him on the podcast. Yeah. But in a weird way, he opened up my mind a little bit to like why I was doing things that I was doing, but I was the one asking the questions, which is crazy. Yeah. But yeah, community is very special. So let's talk a little bit. The 2 books, we talked about Prove Wrong. That's My Property. Let's get into that a little bit. What is the premise? What is it all about?
That's My Property is the name of my business. Mm-hmm. Okay. Short for That's My Property Investments. Yeah. I was a big affirmation person. Mm-hmm. And I think that no matter what your circumstance, we all go through challenges. We all go through obstacles in life, and we all have some type of dreams or goals that we want to aspire to. Mm-hmm. And what got me out of that negative rut from being a gang member, because when I went to the Naval Academy, imagine it. You go from Naval Academy, you go from gang member to Naval Academy. You have to adjust. You have to lead people. You have to learn how to speak. So I had to find a way, well, how do I adapt? How do I have motivation? I'm in this foreign environment, and for me, I would write affirmations on sticky notes. Mm-hmm. And I would constantly post that all around my cupboard and in my notebooks and stuff. I would write them out every day. I would write them out every night. And even when I was under contract on my first deal, I printed out the listing and I placed it on my mirror in the bathroom. So when I would brush my teeth or I go in there and do whatever, I can see it. Yeah. And for me, I wanted to be, if I'm going to form a business, I want it to be an impact on people even when they read and see the name of my business. And so That's My Property was supposed to be an affirmation, because you can apply that to everything. I want people to be like, no, that's my property. And so I formed the business. And once I got into real estate space, man, I was still doing the speaking. I was still doing the podcast. And everyone was like, how do I do this? How do I do that? How do I get into multifamily? Especially how do you do it in a space of market like San Diego? Mm-hmm. What are these certain key terms and vocabulary terms that are so complicated to understand? Like, I don't know how to, I can look it up on Google, but I still don't understand what exactly IRR and equity multiple is and cash on cash and all these different things. And just how did you do it? How do you make it work? And the author of me was like, I found a need, and I provided. Mm-hmm. I locked myself away for several months, and I produced That's My Property after the book. And I'm like, this is everything you need to know on multifamily real estate. The first part of the book is the nitty-gritty of everything I went through to get that 4 unit. It was not pleasant. As you know, a normal escrow is supposed to be 30 to 45 days. I was under escrow for about 3 to 4 months. I got hit with over $10,000 in fines and fees. My broker even called me. I was in the gym about to do a bench press set, and he was like, Dre, you need to drop out of this deal. Because if you don't, like, you're going to lose your EMD. It was 20 grand. You're going to get hit with over 10 grand in fees. He was like, I just think this is dumb. I've got my family telling me that's dumb. It's $2 million. That's too expensive. And I remember being like, it's a risk not to take a risk. And I'm like, if I do this deal, this one deal, I will forever change my life and my family's life. And whoever else that comes along the way. And so that is everything that is documented in the first part of the book. The second part of the book is everything people need to know about just multifamily investing in general, with examples and interactive spreadsheets and graphics and whatnot. And then the third part is a full A to Z vocabulary list, but explained and dumbed down in a way that everyday people can understand. And that's why I wrote it.
I like that. And I'm assuming you move forward with that deal.
Of course.
Yeah. Good. I was going to say, because I had a similar experience. I was buying my first flip on my own. I partnered with someone locally for a long time, and we would do a joint venture, and I had an opportunity to buy this deal that needed way more work than I've ever experienced. Yeah. And one of my best friends was like, dude, even if you go and lose money on this deal, you know that you experienced it and that you can do it on your own, because you're going to do a hard one first and then you can do the easy ones later. Sure enough, I did the deal, and it was the best experience that I could have ever experienced because I had hands-on of what it took to flip a house through in and throughout. And if I didn't take that risk, I probably wouldn't be buying multiple houses per month and all of that now by myself because I would have been too scared. Yeah. But you have to take the leap. But it's probably good too. I'm assuming, having at the point that you were at, did you have a lot of money saved up, or was that like your entire nest egg?
That was everything I had.
Okay.
Going back to those Chicago roots, we didn't have much.
Right.
My mom we lived paycheck to paycheck, and I just remember when I had that opportunity a lifetime to go to the Naval Academy in Annapolis, she said, just save everything you have. I can't really teach you about real estate investing or any type of investments like that, but just save. Mm-hmm. And so I was very frugal. I saved everything I had, and it came full circle that when Keegan is sitting across from me telling me about multifamily, I look back and I'm like, I had the dough. And so I moved forward with that 4-unit because I just so happened to save.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Did you still have it today?
I still have it.
That's dope. I feel like, would you ever sell it?
Absolutely not.
I know. It's like the first deal.
Nah.
I ended up actually keeping the first one that I flipped by myself. And I have it as an Airbnb now, but I am so emotionally attached to it because I'm like, that was the first one that I did. Yeah. I'm like, I don't want to sell it, but I probably will 1031 exchange it this year into a multifamily deal because you can get, it's like 15x on your cost segregation versus a 10x on single family. So I'm going to take all my residential stuff after my leases expire and put them on the market this year to 1031 into something bigger. So, yeah, multifamily. I think that's the only two. Like when we're talking about cash flow in San Diego, buying single family versus multifamily, you're just not going to get the same return. One, in terms of tax benefits and all the other stuff that comes with it, multifamily it far surpasses that when it comes to the difference of the two in benefits. Did you ever dabble at all into residential?
I didn't. I've never have. I think I started on the multifamily route, and I've just stuck in that ever since.
That's good. Yeah. It's hard. I feel like with most people starting out, like they're looking for like active income, cash. With multifamily, it's really, I don't want to say passive income, somewhat passive, but your payout is when you sell, right? You don't really get paid up front. And your cash flow, are you cash flowing on your PV deal?
Cash flowing. Everything I have here cash flows.
That's great. How many units do you have now, or doors?
I'm at over 101. I'm under contract now on a huge deal, another big deal in PB. It just happened to work out that way as of 2 weeks ago. It's me and two other guys.
Congratulations.
We're all partnering. Thank you. We're all partnering together. And this one's going to be a little bit different. Still multifamily, but it's more of a development play.
Okay.
And so we're building 29 units right off of Feldspar Street behind Sprouts. Oh, wow. And so the architect we're working with is well known throughout San Diego, building that garden style 3-story units. And so that's gonna be a pretty huge deal.
That's. Have you done a ground up before?
No, it'd be my first.
Okay, cool.
I've done the ADU play.
Okay.
Which is in a way kind of similar to that, but this one is different because the ADU structure in San Diego can be pretty creative. You could take existing garages, as existing structures, or you can build up, or you can just obviously build from the ground up. But this one is a lot different because you're literally scrapping the two houses that are on the 16,300 lot and then building straight everything new. So it's a lot different because it's not all ADUs. You know what I mean?
Right.
So this would be my first on a larger scale, but it's still a pretty cookie cutter project. But I'm excited for it.
Yeah, nowadays with the architects and people like ADU geeks, they have these cookie cutter plans that the cities are like already ready to approve, especially with solid zonings and things like that.
Yeah, that's a smart way to go. I think a lot of people don't realize that you can even go online and find cookie cutter already pre-approved plans, and you should submit that. And I think that is, if I can offer some more juice to people, some more sauce, if you want to call it, is go get the cookie cutter plan, submit that. And then what you could do, there are some people and individuals out here that have built a business also off of rushing permits. So when you do that and then you pay someone a little bit to rush your permits and they're looking into it and checking on it every week, that can cut your lead time of waiting for permits several months.
Sure.
Next thing you know, you build. Once you get your permits, you're ready to build. You build pretty quick. And then for the soft costs, because you got the soft cost and you got the hard cost. The hard cost is, for people that don't know, is your construction. The soft cost is your permitting and your design and everything. There's grants available in San Diego that will cover your soft costs. So if you really think about it, you can get most of your stuff done. All you got to do is worry about how you're going to fund the hard costs. But that helps you a lot with trying to efficiently and easily build some ADUs in San Diego.
Yeah, I like that. When you're under contract, let's just talk about this deal specifically. When you're under contract, are they allowing you to submit plans to the city prior to the close of escrow? Or are you required to close on it and then submit plans?
We already submitted at that time.
Okay,
we
cool.
submitted 3 weeks, so we'll close at the end of February.
That's awesome. Yeah, the one that I just told you that I was signing escrow paperwork today before we got here. It's a single family house on a 6,300 square foot lot, and it's RM 3-7, so we can build up to 16 units on it.
I love it.
The existing house is already turnkey, move-in ready, so we can Airbnb it. So we're getting quotes. We're doing an event on the 16th, actually. I'll send you the link. Yeah. So I actually just got plans. We're closing on Tuesday, but I already have plans and everything ready to go for a 4, a 6, and a 9 unit. And then, dude, the numbers are crazy. I was doing the math on, because you can sell, in San Diego, you can probably sell fixed up, rented out units for $450 a door, roughly, you think? Yeah. So, the return was like, if I built them up and stabilized it and then resold it, it's like almost a 7-figure deal, like over 7-figure.
Yeah.
So, stuff like that. I had someone on here recently who was talking about eggs hatching, and like each year you just have, like, you buy one of these multifamily properties that you're going to develop, and slowly after a couple of years you just have an egg hatch, and you just get, these payouts as you go while you're still building up your active income, and like for me it would be flipping and that type of stuff. But it's crazy what you can do once you start learning how to work the real estate game and how powerful it can be.
Yeah.
Because the money is obviously the money is great. It's amazing. But just, I think, learning, because every deal is not the same. So I think that's the funnest part, is the different challenges and things that you can maneuver through.
Especially here.
Yeah.
You have to be a lot more creative to make it work
You do.
in San Diego.
Yeah, especially, to get cash flow, for sure, 100%. For sure, yeah. Either you're putting a shitload of money down, or you have to be creative when you're finding your deals, or hopefully get them off market and just get a really good deal on them. How do you find the majority of your deals now?
I still find stuff on the MLS, actually. I know some people have that jargon that you can't find deals on the MLS and deals on Craigslist and LoopNet go to die, and I don't believe in that. I've never believed in that. I've known several people that I found deals in the MLS. My first deal that was a home run was in the MLS, and it's a mix of me being on the MLS to find deals, as well as brokers and agents and escrow officers sending me deals. I built quite a bit amount of relationships here in San Diego. This is my whole network, and people are constantly sending me stuff as well.
That's
so
awesome.
I have quite a bit that I can look at any given week. That a lot of good opportunities.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I feel like agents, for me, has always been my biggest resource. Agents and brokers, multifamily space, typically brokers. It's funny too, because it's almost like I know it seemed like you're a Rolex guy. Is that a Rolex?
It's not.
It's not. It looks like yeah. It looks like the Sky Dweller.
I don't know, but it's funny you say that, because I want to get one. I've been looking at some. So
we can talk about that off camera.
We
Yeah,
can definitely talk.
So I was going to explain it, like how you go to a Rolex dealer. For people that don't know, if you go to a Rolex dealer, they supposedly like put you on a list, and they'll eventually send you the watch you want. And I feel like with multifamily, the broker space, it's like you kind of have to gain credibility for them to put you on their list to actually send you deals that are off market, that are quality deals. So it's funny, after I've like gotten to know the multifamily space, because I do want to dabble my toe in it. Eventually I would like to get, a 6 to 10 unit, something like that, the next year, just to get my feet wet. And as I'm like talking to brokers and stuff, I'm kind of like, I'm feeling this out, and I'm like, man, this just reminds me of when I was trying to buy a watch. Like, I have to be on this like special list. I gotta make sure I'm whining and dining these dudes. Like, it's just funny. So, do you feel like that?
I do feel like that, especially starting out. Because the biggest thing is, again, to me, it's all about giving the listeners value.
Right.
If you're in that situation and you're starting out and you're trying to get started, and you're trying to build these relationships with that broker, you always got to respond back, even if it's a bad deal. Because I think where people get tripped up is they'll get sent that shitty deal, and they just don't respond, or they delay their response, and that's horrible. What you want to do is, you still want to, the best way to do it, if I can give some perspective and advice, is I would take that shitty deal, I would still underwrite it, and then I would send that long email and be like, hey, these are especially when you start attaching numbers in your spreadsheet to it, be like, listen, this is why this deal is shitty. And then you send that to them. And then that's when they're going to be like, okay, they might give you 2 or 3 more just like that. And then once you do that 2 or 3 times, they're going to be like, okay, like, unless you got a connection to that broker, but let's just say you just called them up from the get-go and you go through that experience. Once you do that 2-3 times, they're like, okay, this person is actually looking at what I'm sending them. They're underwriting. They're giving me a thorough explanation. And then that's when that relationship will shift, and they'll start taking you a little bit more seriously because they're seeing your response, they're seeing your underwriting the deal, and they'll start sending you more stuff. Or you go to these networking events and you make a connection, and then someone can make an intro to you, and then obviously that's a way to get in the door too, because you're leveraging the relationship and connection somebody else has with that said broker.
100%. Actually, that helps me a lot. It's funny because just like you said, I've been getting sent some deals, and they're definitely like locations are bad, stuff that I wouldn't really look at. Thankfully, I'm good about calling them and just staying in touch, like building the relationship. But I'm not interested in those deals, and I'm not analyzing them how I would traditionally. Because I look at it like from the residential side, I get sent so many deals from wholesalers that suck, right? That don't make any sense, and I'm not responding to the email because they're blasting it out to everyone.
Right.
So I have to have a different mindset based on what you're saying. I should have a different mindset on looking at those deals and analyzing them and giving feedback versus just like a wholesaler. I just pushed it off to the side. That deal sucks. I'm not interested.
Well, yeah, and I'm sure, right? You have so much between email, text, phone calls, and I mean even Instagram on social media.
For sure.
You have so many ways that people are reaching out to you. It's like, how do you efficiently respond to people? So another thing that I was speaking to another buddy of mine who crushes in the real estate. He's a millionaire too. And one thing that we've also been doing together and just masterminding is voice notes. So same thing, like let's say like I usually have their number. So let's say they send me an email and I've already got a cluttered email box and I'm on the go, I'm driving, I'm headed to another speaking event, or you're about to look at another property, I'll send a voice note sometimes. And especially that works well for those smaller deals that's like a wholesale or like a flip, or just a deal you just know is shitty and you don't want to provide like a financial email or just in detail. I'll just send a voice note like, yo, I looked at the deal. I'll provide a little bit of explanation behind it, and I'll send it. Or I'll just call, do a quick 5-10 minute phone call, and then that's it. But what that does is same thing. You're still responding back to that person. You're giving some type of explanation, and you'll save your time from shooting a long email or shooting a long text. Or if you're crunched for time, maybe you can't do a phone call. But that voice message is powerful.
I just started using those more often because it's so hard to try to draft up. I've always been a phone person. I've never really been an email person from when I started in sales and all. I'm not one. I may be a little illiterate when it comes to emails. Like I can't get my point across like the right way, and I've found myself doing that. And people can take texts differently than the way you send them.
Right.
So with voice notes, I felt like recently it's just been more of one of those powerful things when I can't even jump on the phone real quick. So they get my like, yo, dude, where they know that I'm just being real and it's not like it doesn't come off like a dick.
And it still captures your voice.
Yeah.
That's the thing with text, like as you know, like it doesn't always come across the way you would hope to. So if you send the voice, they can hear the fluctuation in your voice, the excitement, the depth, the tone, whatever mood you're in, what you're trying to say. It gets out there through the voice note, and you can do that walking, driving, like it's so seamless.
I get in trouble when a wife texts me or something, and it's just like I just put like a thumbs up because I have to do like some super quick response. Yeah. But then it's even worse when I don't respond. So I'm like, what do you want? I'm going to give you either a quick emoji, or I'm not going to respond. And I'm going to call you later. But I agree with that, man. That's interesting. That's pretty powerful. I think people who are for listeners who are in the residential space looking to buy their first multifamily deal, there actually is a big difference when you're fielding in deal flow. So I like that. And I think too, for people just starting out, analyzing as many possible deals as you can. That was one thing. One of my buddies, he's always trying to like do his first flip. He's like, let's partner up. Let's do our first deal together. And every time he sends me a deal, I'm like, okay, what are your numbers? I'm like, here's the pro forma. Let me know. I want you to analyze it and then send me what you think of it so you can get better and better at analyzing your own deals. Because I think by practice and repetitiveness, you get better and better as you go. How many deals do you think that you wrote offers on before? Well, LOIs. letter
For the
of
first
intent?
one?
For the first, yeah.
Ooh. I don't think I didn't submit a lot of offers, actually. So that first deal that I did, I looked at a lot of deals. Like I was analyzing deals every day. I was looking every single day, several deals every single day. And then once I think I submitted 4 offers total.
Okay.
Until I found the 5 unit and the 4 unit, those are the best ones. There was two in Mission Hills as well that were 4 units that I didn't move forward on. I got the counter. I could have went in escrow, but there were things like foundational issues and stuff like that. And for me, I didn't have a whole lot of capital, and it was already tight just to get my foot through the door. So I think for me, I'm like, if something goes wrong or whatever else it may be, I just wasn't comfortable moving that route. So I wanted something that it could have a little bit of value add, more small, but I didn't want something that was a huge heavy lift.
Sure.
So for me, I think that I still got my reps in underwriting because I was still looking at several deals every single day.
Right.
And then LOI, just submitting offers, it just worked out the way it worked out. So it just happened to be that I got the second position. Well, I made it to the final. I got the counter. Something in my gut was like, don't do that deal. So I just didn't even respond back. And then obviously I made the second position on the 5 unit, and then I moved forward with the 4 unit. So it just, for me, it kind of worked out. I've been in position in the future though where, I submitted multiple offers and they would get accepted or they didn't get accepted. But starting out, I really didn't have to submit a lot. It was more just looking at multiple deals.
How many deals do you think you were looking at a day? Like 5 maybe?
5 or 6 a day.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't that much that was between people sending me stuff and what popped up new on the MLS. It wasn't too crazy, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. And that was 7 years ago now, right? 7?
No, that was 3 years ago.
3 years. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
3 years ago. Wow. That's awesome. From when you, I was trying to think about like from when you initially were like, oh, I'm going to get into multifamily to your first deal.
So my first deal was, I always remember this date because I closed on Christmas Eve. So December 24th for 2021. Oh, wow. So it's been a while, a whirlwind. The books, the podcast, the 9 sponsorship meetup group, all the deals, 3 years.
Bro.
So this past December 24th marked me 3 years.
100 plus doors in 3 years. Yeah. That's pretty fucking awesome, dude.
It's that fast.
So, yeah. I mean, it's pretty crazy how fast you can scale in real estate.
Yeah.
Like I don't think I grasped it. Like when I first started flipping, I was like, I didn't even know that like making $100,000 a month was possible. Like you hear people making it and you're like, oh, like, I don't know, like it's kind of crazy. And once you start doing it, you're like, holy shit. Like this is real. Like you can really take real estate to the next level and scale extremely fast because it's proven systems and processes. And finding the right people, especially in your corner, like for multifamily. I'm assuming you raised capital on the majority of that.
Some of them.
Yeah.
So I know that some people, they build a business on syndicating.
Yeah.
And that's what, you're referring to with raising capital for the listeners out there. For me, I found that it works best like an ebb and flow. So some deals I'm trying to do on my own, some I'm trying to do joint venture, and then depending on the deal, it being a home run, I will try to raise capital for. So even like the 75 unit that I did in Texas, that was my one-off that I didn't do in San Diego because when I was at the Naval Academy, I did a lot of like leadership conferences and seminars at Texas A&M and around that area. So I was familiar with it, and then I also had people that were down there that I trusted too. So that's where that was a one-off, and it was a screaming good deal, raised the capital for it, and the investors, we got cash flow from day one. It was more of a turnkey asset.
Oh, that's good.
Gave them a 7% preferred return right away. That was, like I said, like a one-off. And then even the deal we're doing now is a capital raise for the build in Feldspar Street. So it really depends on the deal, especially because if stuff goes wrong, I'm the type of guy, especially from the Naval Academy and my background, like I'm fronting that money to people. So just like in leadership, if something goes wrong, they'll never feel it. So they'll always feel like the deal is going great, but I'm going to pay them out. And even if things did go completely sideways and I did have to let everybody know, I would still pay them out, you know what I mean, through my own money, because I feel like that's just the right thing to do.
100%.
You know what I mean? So I think that's another reason why, like, I'm very picky about the deals that I do to raise capital with. Like, it really has to be special and unique and a great opportunity for people.
Sure.
In order for me to start raising people's money for it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I raise with single family, and it does depend on the deal based on what I want to do. But obviously, I'm just giving them a 12% annual return, and I'm turning these over typically 90 to 120 days, so it's super fast. But majority of the time, sometimes I'll front the construction costs and pay those out of my own pocket. It just depends on the circumstance. So like per deal, I would totally get it. With multifamily, it's interesting though, because up front, you buying like let's say you buy an asset and you have to stabilize it, you raise rents, you refi it, you can typically try to pull out the majority of their funds, the investors' funds, and pay them back pretty quickly, or at least over a 2-year period. Mm-hmm. So anytime I've ever looked at a big multifamily deal, I would think of raising up front and then trying to pay them out fairly quick. But obviously some deals you just can't predict what happens.
Mm-hmm. No, it's typically 3 to 5 year. Well, really, if you're doing a regular multifamily syndication, it's typically 5 to 7 year hold. This one's going to be 4 years. We'll complete the project in 3 years, but we hold till for year 4 for tax implication reasons for the investors. But I've also seen people do it where, depending on the deal in the market, you can syndicate the money, raise the money, and then when you sell, let's say it's in year 4 or 5, roll back your proceeds into the deal, and then try to refinance where then you hold it and then you pay your investors off. Ideally, I think that is the best place to be. Sure. You know what I mean? Because then you can hold that asset and you're already familiar with it.
Right.
And you've already stabilized it to where it's in a cash flowing position. You might, maybe, again, depending on the size and depending on the market, you might have to bring in another partner to do it. Even after you roll your capital in it, it might not be enough to cover the full down payment, but it's still a viable option.
Yeah, you mentioned taxes. Correct me if I'm wrong. The great thing about investors investing in deals like multifamily, when you syndicate them, is they can take advantage of the same tax benefits you can with being a sole owner, like cost segregation.
Yep. So, as for my people that don't know, again, nuggets and tips, trying to give the value. Every part of that building has a life cycle. So the roof, the laundry machines, the wall, the tiles, the fan, everything is. So if one has a 9-year lifespan, 12, 24 years, like whatever, basically what happens with that cost segregation study is that you hire a firm, they come in, they do all the life cycles of everything, and they accelerate that depreciation. And what we do is we accelerate all that depreciation from the property into the investors. They get this form called a K-1 statement. They'll get it every year. So the same way how you all would get a W-2 or a 1099 or whatever from when you file your taxes, you'll get that K-1 statement, and it'll have that depreciation value, and all you do is you just give that to your CPA, and that's the benefits that you're referring to, just to make it a little bit more detailed for the listeners out there. But like you said, that's the beautiful thing about syndications, because I have a couple buddies, they're literally multimillionaires, and all they do is syndicate as limited partners, because they want to be in real estate, they want the tax benefits, they want the appreciation and cash flow, but they don't want to manage it. And like, if you really think about it, like, that's the best place to be. And they literally just do deal after deal. Once they get there to return, especially they win big, they 2x, 3x their money. After a few years, they just roll it into the next deal with the same operator or a new operator. And especially if you really think about it, once you do that and it compounds, when you have 2 or 3 like trusted operators that and they're constantly bringing in deals, and you could just keep rolling capital to each one, like, it's a domino effect.
Yeah, it's huge. And that's when you hear about these gurus who flip real estate or make a ton of money, and they buy multifamily units to wipe away their income, where they're paying, virtually nothing in taxes, which is the power of real estate, which is special. Anything that you're working on, passion projects, things like that?
Yeah, so I have another book that I'm working on.
Nice.
Actually, a few. So Prove Them Wrong did extremely well as a Wall Street Journal bestseller, international bestseller, Amazon, Barnes & Noble. I'm working on a workbook for. I'm about 90% done with it. Very interactive. It'll have a leadership mindset, income business component to it, to really help people go to the next level. So we'll have that. There also is, I took the Multifamily by the Slice podcast, my podcast on real estate and multifamily investing, taking the constant hundreds of hours of all the interviews and nuggets from people and putting that into a book, and also my analysis of everything, shaping it in a unique way. So that is set to drop soon this year, probably at the end of the year.
Nice.
You got to time it out right.
Yeah.
And then another book on like entrepreneurship and business mindset.
Love that.
So I have those books. You know, I'm always an author at heart. I feel like that's just the bread and butter. So I obviously continue to push that and just do more deals, man. More outreach events. I'm so big on outreach and kids. So I want to do a lot more events with the kids, ramp it up on a heavier level, though, like teaching them about financial literacy, teaching them about business and other passive streams of income in real estate to make it cool and sexy for them. I think that it used to be where I was doing a lot of motivational speaking, but now it's like, okay, how can I combine that with like finances and real estate and business? And so I found myself combining those after I got into real estate to now get back to you. So that's a big thing for me this year as well.
I love that. Dude, I don't know why, I haven't thought about this before. My mom's a principal in the school district, and she used to ask me to put on these charity events to talk about like career days and stuff like that. I bet you I can ask her to do some type of mastermind and have like, you know, you and I go up on stage, whether it's at a high school or some type of thing. Yeah. I do it at colleges. I get invited. There's a realtor who does the real estate classes in Maricosta, so I'll do classes on real estate investing with them. But to do something on like a broader scheme with high schools who have 500, 2,000 students, that'd be fun.
Yeah, let's do it.
I should ask her about that. Oh yeah, give me some ideas. That's awesome, man. How do you have? And I don't mean it for this to be like offensive. Do you ghost, like, because I know there's people who do interviews like this and they interview you and then they write the books, or are you actually writing it?
I actually write. I know what you mean. That's called ghostwriters.
Yeah.
I don't do ghostwriting because I am an author. So in writing, like I mentioned, has always been my thing. I also wouldn't want to do that. Well, for one, it's extremely expensive.
Yeah,
to do it really well, it's extremely expensive, like hundreds of thousands of dollars. And the second thing, just my voice. Like, I don't think that, end of the day, I don't think anyone could capture my voice the way I could and my words the way I could. You could be the best writer ever, but I just don't see it. So I always just prefer to write it my own. Like, I just can't fathom me. I get it for some people, because if English is not your best forte, like, I would say, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, for someone like
ghostwriter, do it.
Yeah,
I understand, but like, if you know how to write and like that's always been like a passion for you, then like you might as well just write it yourself.
No, that's good. I asked almost honestly more for a selfish reason, because I don't feel like I would be able to write my words out. Yeah. I think I'm able to talk through it more than I would be good at writing through it. Yeah,
then I would say hire, if that's the case, and there's things that you want to talk about and get in a book, then I would hire a ghostwriter to do it for you, to get it all out there and get your book out there.
That's cool, though. Yeah, that's awesome. Do you know Jarvis Levison?
I know Jarvis.
Yeah. We did he came on the podcast, and him and I were talking afterwards, because we got a little like deeper after his story and stuff. After the podcast, we talked about stuff, and he's like, bro, you need to like put this in writing and write it through. And so I asked him, because he wrote his own book too.
He's working on his now.
And he's working on a second one. Or was that his?
He's working on his first one.
First one, that's right. And so it was interesting, because I asked him that question, because I've seen other people, other gurus who do the interviews, and I've heard their stories, and I'm like, oh, I didn't even know that. Like, when I'm reading a book, I'm like, is this him actually writing it, or is this someone who he interviewed with? Yeah. That's cool, man. That's super exciting. Well, thanks for coming on. I appreciate you. Is there anything else? Any closing thoughts you have?
Yeah, closing thoughts. I would say, if there's anyone that wants to get in real estate investing, whether you're a beginner or you're immediate and you want to go to the next level, if you are in business and you want to figure out your systems and scale, give me a call or reach out to me really on social media. I'm at Dr. Multifamily, so similar to Dr. Dre, so Dr. Multifamily on all social media platforms, drmultifamily.com or provethemwrongthebook.com. That'll have all the books on there. And so if you want to do some consulting with me in those capacities and really go to the next level, or if you just got general questions, I'm always also posting a lot of stuff on social media. I mean, you see it, you're posting stuff too. I'm also always trying to give out free nuggets and free wisdom to people as well. So that's where I can best be reached.
I love that. And all of his stuff is going to be in the show notes. So thank you all for watching. If you have been listening this whole time, we appreciate you. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review, a 5-star review, and we'll see you on the next episode.